Hello, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access TV. Thanks for joining us for a series of interviews for candidates for City Council this year in the election 2015. In the studio with me is John Dibari. He's a candidate for Ward 4. Thanks for coming, John.
You're very welcome. Appreciate the opportunity.
You're most welcome. And you are, as I'd mentioned before, we were recording, the most prepared candidate. I see that you've got your list of stuff. And I made these questions, same one for every candidate, just to give people an opportunity to talk in a quieter environment, than the public forum about their campaign for City Council office.
Sure.
So here's your first question. What motivates you to run for office?
So this is something I've been interested in for a while, and I've been looking for an opportunity to participate at this level in city government. Some people consider the idea of trying to give back to their community, but I see this as a continuance of the work that I've been doing in Missoula and in Missoula County. I feel fortunate that I've had the opportunity to be on a couple of city and county boards and committees, and I just, like I said, is something that I've had a lot of interest in. I see serving as a city councilor as taking that next step in service, and I feel like that I can lend my voice to the decisions that we're making as a community and hope to continue to make Missoula a great place to be.
Yeah, I remember you from planning board, right? You've been on that a long time.
I have.
And that kind of dovetails into your question too. Why do you think you are qualified to run for the office?
Sure, and I think this is, I appreciate this question. Because as you mentioned, I have been a member of the planning board for a rather long time. And I feel like I can make a positive contribution to the governance of our community because of that experience. I've been on the planning board I'm in my 7th year now. I served 2 years as president of the planning board and 1 as vice president. I've also served as the chair of a couple of subcommittees. I was a technical advisor for 3 years to the Missoula County Open Lands Committee and was a part of helping to develop the conservation lands network that we have here in Missoula through expenditure of the open space bond monies. And I served 2 years as president of the Lewis and Clark Neighborhood Council, which was really great in trying to you talk with your neighbors, essentially. It's the most grassroots kind of connection that you have to the community. I also have a lot of education and work experience that dovetails well with being a city councilor. Before coming to Missoula, actually, I attended planning school at Georgia Tech, and I transferred to the University of Montana, where I graduated with a master's degree in environmental studies. My graduate level research focused on the Subdivision and Platting Act and the exemptions to it, and how that was changing the landscape out around the Missoula Y. So that was a contribution I was able to make. I also worked as a member of the planning department at the time, so that was kind of a good balance of learning what was going on and being able to share it with my colleagues. I have a PhD in landscape and wildlife ecology, and I've conducted research on how human settlement patterns affect the landscape, and I've also done work on conservation area design, so that kind of works its way with our conservation lands network and why it was that I had an opportunity to serve on the Open Lands Committee as a technical advisor. I've worked as a university professor in the past. I've worked at the fire lab here in Missoula, so I have some experience with wildland fire and vegetation and a variety of things in that regard. I also worked for the Sonoran Institute. They're a nonprofit organization. And for the Sonoran Institute, one of the things I did was to develop a model that would predict the distribution and amount of residential growth. So that was really informational in how trying to understand what factors drive residential growth in various communities. We did the modeling exercise here in western Montana, and it was, I think, a really good contribution. And currently, I own and run our family business. So I think there are a number of aspects of my background that really do provide the kind of expertise that you would like to have as a member of, that a member of City Council would want to have, and as I said, would help me contribute positively to how we do things here in Missoula and the decisions we make.
Okay. And here's your question 3. What will your priorities be if you are elected?
Sure. So the priorities that I have organized are really reflective of what I've heard while I've been knocking on doors and meeting with people in my ward. The first one addresses issues associated with financial matters. That includes taxes, bonding, even though that isn't necessarily a city function like with a school bond currently, tax increment financing, just how the city spends its money. And as I've said in the past, I think how the city spends its money is the clearest expression of what its priorities and values are. And so I really want to make sure that how we structure the budget and what we choose to spend money on really is reflecting Missoula's values and priorities. So that's the first thing. The second item would be issues related to community design. And so, as I said before, I've been on the planning board, and that's an area of expertise that I have. So issues of community design include things like land use planning, transportation, growth policy, which we have a new growth policy in the city that's going to come before a planning board next week, actually. And I know the county's working through a process with that as well. Zoning, redevelopment, economic development, and conservation land. So it's basically anything to do with the built environment that we live in, and so that would be another priority. And then the third priority, how I've kind of grouped that, is community function. So these would include things like the provision of city services, including potentially mountain water and all that's involved with that, transit and Bolt service and zero fare, affordable.
That's related to the bus, right?
Yes,
Bolt
exactly.
And zero fare mean you can ride the bus for free. Bolt means it comes every 15 minutes.
Exactly. Yep. So that's obviously a function that well, I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but it's one of the functional aspects of our community, how it operates. I'm also interested in affordable housing and the discussion we've been having about living wages and what to do about jail overcrowding. So, like I said, the three things are financial matters, community design, and community function, basically how things operate. And I've heard from a number of different people as I've knocked on doors about all aspects of this, and so that's how I've worked out my priorities, that they're really the priorities of the people that I talk to and who live in my ward.
Okay. Here's your future one.
Oh,
What
yeah.
does the future of Missoula look like to you?
So I mentioned just a second ago about the growth policy. It's called Our Missoula. That's what the city's growth policy is called. And if you haven't read it, the vision statement associated with that growth policy is great. I was a part of the Growth Policy Steering Committee as a planning board representative, and so I was a part of the group that helped author or at least provide input regarding that vision statement. And so I won't read it, I don't have it here, but that really encapsulates basically all that you could think of that Missoula would want to be. But in addition to that, I think I see Missoula continuing to be a leader in Montana in progressive governance and in being a great place to live and learn and work and do business and recreate and rear a family. So those are the things that I see in Missoula's future. I see, most people probably know this but don't really think about it, is Missoula is the second largest city in the state, and I see Missoula becoming, coming into its own as an urban center. And that's one of the things that our Missoula growth policy is really kind of focusing on, the built environment in Missoula and coming into our own as an urban environment. And I think that's really important. It's, we're going to have this urban environment here in western Montana, but we also still maintain that distinctly western feel of being in western Montana. So that's something that I see happening for the city. I see the Missoula residents, so this is an important part of our community, and I think always has been, the active and committed residents of this community, and it shows by the turning out to all of the events that happen downtown and across the community.
There's a lot of events, right?
Absolutely. It's what makes Missoula Missoula. It's an incredibly vibrant place, and A couple of weeks ago, I attended the forum that was held by the Missoula Downtown Association, and one of their questions was about the downtown. And I said, we're really fortunate in this community. We have an incredibly vibrant downtown. People want to come and spend time here. Tonight is First Friday, as you probably know.
A lot going
and it'll be
on.
really busy.
The Big Wilma open house.
The Big Wilma,
People
yep.
are thinking about that.
So, that's one of the things that sort of separates Missoula from, obviously, its nearby neighbors, but just the kind of feel that Missoula has and embracing its downtown and, the other neighborhoods of the community, obviously. And I also see the nonprofit community continuing to serve its role in partnership with the city to try to work on a variety of issues related to public safety and livable environments and open and inclusiveness to our community members. And so I am generally encouraged by the future that I see for Missoula, and I'm looking forward to be a part of not only living here, but helping make that happen.
All right, here's your last question. You can expound on anything you want. What haven't we touched upon that you would like to say?
So we've maybe touched on a few of these things, but I've been fortunate enough in my campaign to have received the support of a number of people in the community, elected officials, former elected officials, just people that I've met as a part of being a candidate, and then the residents of my ward. And I like I said, I do feel really fortunate that I have that level of support. I've also been endorsed by the Missoula County Democrats, the Montana Conservation Voters, and the Missoula Area Central Labor Council. So I feel really fortunate, too, that those organizations have placed their confidence in me and feel that the background that I bring to the table here to be a city councilor is one that would be a real positive contribution to the city. I think I did allude to this, but I've knocked on probably I've been to about 2,500 doors in the community. Not all of them have I knocked at and visited with people. Obviously a lot of people aren't home, but that's been a really great experience, and I'm actually on my second time around going through and knocking on doors, and I've really appreciated the time that the residents have given me and the interest that they've expressed in my campaign, and I think that kind of information that you get by knocking on the doors and visiting with people is invaluable, and you can't really get it any other way.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John, for taking the time to
Oh,
appear
you're
on
very
the show.
welcome.
John Dibari is a candidate for City Council Ward 4. Well, thank you for joining us, too, for this short segment, interviews with City Council candidates conducted by MCAT. We just want to leave you with this note. The election is coming up. If you have not received your ballot by the time you're watching this program, please contact Missoula County Election Office to make sure that you're registered to vote and that they have your correct address on file. Well, for MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.